Are you tired of playing a ranged DPS and staying away from your target? Do you also wish you could have a more complex spec that takes a lot to practice while BM babies complain about their frenzy buff dropping off? Well, look no further because we have a guide for you. Yeah, this one right here. You can get your talent, gear rotation and everything you need to take your survival into PV right now, starting with the talents. We can't talk about survival hunter talents without mentioning that there are two builds. The builds are mostly separated by single target and multi-target, and you can take both into raids and or dungeons. Normally we try to focus on a general build, but luckily survival gives us too many valid options. So on the first row, the single target option is Alpha Predator. Gives you 2 charges of kill command and it's hard to beat in boss fights. Almost. The AoE option, and really the one most hunters use regardless if they are raiding or doing dungeons, is Viper's Venom. For me, this seems the best on both single target and AoE scenarios and will be the default pick I will recommend. Second row, take Guerrilla Tactics. Overall, this seems the best and is the general choice for all content and the one you should take. There is an argument for Hydra's Bite that will perform better on double boss fights or simply long sustained cleave fights. Since these are very rare even now, go with Guerrilla Tactics, but keep this one in mind as well. Third row is the utility role. The default choice is Natural Mending, since it provides the most survivability. But as all utility roles go, the choice is down to you, as long as you can actually take full advantage of the one you pick. Level 60, take Blood Seeker, no questions asked. The best option on the row for single target, and it scales with AoE as long as your targets are bleeding. Nothing else to see here. Finally, I don't have to take Murder of Crows. Level 75, we have another utility tier with the same logic as before. You should take Post Haste for most situations, however. The extra mobility will save you from things that would require you to pop a defensives. Binding Shock can work great in Mythics, where your tank will want to kite mobs, but this is something you need to know before going in. Level 90, also one universal pick, which is Mongoose Bite. This will add a bit of flavor to the rotation and something for you to track and play with. Last row will give us 2 options again. Birds of Prey will work the best for single target encounters. This means raids and boss fights in general. This can also mean tyrannical dungeons where you want bosses down fast and hard. The AoE option is Wildfire Infusion and should be something you generally use. The first row and last row both depend on what Azerite pieces you have, which we will explore in a bit. But keep that in mind and always sim your character on sites like Raidbots, where you can get a more accurate assessment of the best choices you can make. As with all DPS specs, you should get into the habit of simming your character. We are talking basics here, of course, and how to start playing this spec, but that doesn't mean you can never go more in depth with your hunter. As a general rule, you would always want agility and eye level at the top, not to mention when it comes to your weapon, since raw DPS is better than any other stat in the game. Follow that up with haste, crit, versatility, and mastery. Clearly, if you start gearing your character, getting specific traits and such, this priority will change. As an example, I've been mainly gearing for Beastmaster, which favors crit a lot, and my haste levels are dangerously low, to the point where the sims are telling me I need haste more than agility. And because I have so much crit, versatility is almost better for me than crit. This is not so you can copy me, but to put things into perspective about what it means to gear your character up with a disproportionate approach to your stat weights. When choosing trinkets, follow the same arguments as you would for stats. Sim and make sure your stats don't skew too much into one direction, and by too much I mean double or triple the amount. There are a few trinkets that seem to be best in slot, so strap yourself in. The overall best choice, as it should be obvious, is Gale Caller's Boon. The one that puts down a rune, increasing your haste as long as you stick inside it. There's a joke here somewhere, I'm sure. Men are pigs, what you gonna do? This bad boy drops from the ever so loved dungeon Shrine of the Storm. The other good trinket is Harlan's Loaded Dice, that drops from Freehold. This is a universal love trinket by all agility DPSers, and it should be something you aim for, considering Freehold is one of the easier dungeons to do. There are of course other trinkets that can work wonders, particularly ones that have haste and crit stat buffs. So don't think you cannot dish out dangerous DPS without the ones mentioned before. Azerite traits, oh boy. I mentioned in the talent section there are two main builds that you can go for, each seemingly viable in almost all situations. Furthermore, those builds are complemented by specific Azerite traits that work best in those configurations. One of these traits is Blur of Talents, which you will want to stack if you plan on going with the Birds of Prey talent. Also works better if you take Alpha Predator on the first row, since it's a very single target focused trait. This seems to be the most used trait by top hunters in Mythic rating and Mythic plus keys. The other trait you can stack is Latent Poison, which works better in raids because of downtimes like on Mechatorque, will let you stack the poisons and take full advantage of its effect. This trait works best with Viper's Venom and well enough with both options on the last row. Again, this is a trait you want to stack if you are aiming for it. The last one you should take and stack only in Mythic dungeons, however, is Wildfire Cluster, and play exclusively Wildfire Infusion talent with it. Depending on your Azerite pieces, you might not have the luxury of playing all three variations. And the reason I mentioned them is because I believe they are important enough for you to understand how to use them and in what situations. Apart from these, you want only one Wilderness Survival for the cooldown reduction effect, which does not stack, and if you have no better option, one Primeval Intuition, again for the focus increase, even though the crit is nice as well. For secondary traits, Overwhelming Power is the best one you can pick. While for defensives, ideally go with shield-like traits, such as Resounding Protection. But what's even more important than that is making sure the bell thingy is enabled even if you're already subscribed. Otherwise, you'll never know when we update this with the imaginary buffs Survival will get in 8.2. Looking at survival from a broader view, it's by far the most complex and engaging spec the hunter has. The rotation and priority system differs depending on your talent choices, so I will do my best to make it simple and easy to pick up for you. If you have any questions or you think I missed something, hit the comment section below and we'll discuss it. First, let's take a look at the rotation, depending on what talent you pick. For Viper's Venom, the rotation is simple. Coordinated Assault should be used on cooldown. If you have 5 stacks of Mongoose Fury, use Mongoose Bite here. Kill Command is next, also on cooldown. Wildfire Bomb should be used to maintain the debuff on as many targets as you can. Apply Serpent Sting, and if you proc Viper's Venom, cast Serpent Sting regardless of its leftover duration. If you are in the Coordinated Assault window still and also have Birds of Prey talented, ignore this step. Lastly, use Mongoose Bite to start your new Mongoose Bite window, ideally at around 60 focus. If you run Alpha Predator, you'll have 2 charges on kill commands, and that will alter your mindset just a bit. Again, Coordinated Assault is the most important one. Apply the Serpent Sting debuff on the target, use Wildfire Bombs to prevent capping on charges, Mongoose Bite if you are at 5 stacks of Mongoose Fury, Kill Command as you're building your stacks to make sure you have the focus for them, refresh Serpent Sting if you have the Birds of Prey talent and the Coordinated Assault cooldown procced, also ignore this step like before, and cast Mongoose Bite to build up your stacks. Lastly, let's talk shortly about Wildfire Infusion. The bombs you get are random and each has a different application, and as you practice with it, the better you will use it, the better your results. Shrapnel Bomb puts bleeds on the target that react when you use Mongoose Bites on them. The best time to use this is when you are pulling for a new Mongoose Bite window, since you want to fit in as many Mongoose Bites in its duration as possible. Volatile Bomb synergizes with Serpent Sting in that it does extra damage if the target has Serpent Sting already on them, so make sure to not cast this naked. Pheromone Bomb makes your kill command reset 100% of the time during its duration, so you would want to use this when you are low on focus, which ideally you dumped into a lot of Mongoose Bites. There are a lot more things to micromanage that will take time and practice, and for these things, I recommend you check the True Shot Lodge Discord channel. Shout out to the hunters there for keeping the community informed with online resources, theory crafting, and a lot more. When you prep your character with enchants and buffs, you want to keep in mind what your stat priorities are and do it accordingly. If you follow the basic stat weights, then get haste for ring enchants and gems. If you have massive amounts of haste already, you can replace one gem with a Kraken's Eye of Agility, or weave your way into crit equivalents. For the weapon, take Quick Navigation. If you are starting to reach higher levels of haste, you can swap it for its crit equivalent. When stuffing your face, opt for Feasts or Sausages, since they give a bigger numeric buff that will trump secondary stat food. Or, you know, more haste. Lastly, Agility Flask and Battle Potions when pushing hard content or progressing in raids, or always if you have elitist friends. You know who you are. Survival is a complex spec to play that takes time to master, and sometimes that can be tiring. You might want to switch to BM. And lo and behold, we have a Beast Mastery Guide ready for you with all the talents gear rotation that you need to do dungeons and raiding right now. Plus, you know, more damage. Shout out to our patrons for their continued support and love. Every day I wake up and check the Patreon page and see like, oh shit, they're still giving us money. Better get off of 9gag and start doing some work. No, really, we really appreciate you guys, and if you want to become a Patreon as well and support our content and what we do, the details are down below. I bet you are watching this and thinking, this is all cool and nice, man, but my weekly chest RNG is still shit. So check our official MarcelianOnline gear with t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, mugs, anything to take your WoW love outside in the world on our official Teespring link. It's official. Thanks for watching the video and have an awesome day.